guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. For the last couple of weeks, I've been getting a lot of comments either on my YouTube channel or direct messages on Instagram where people are talking to me about diabulimia, and most specifically telling me how diabulimia is the easiest eating disorder to deal with. So I really wanted to spend today's video talking about what diabulimia is and why I think it's the most dangerous eating disorder in the world. For anybody who does not want to hear about eating disorders, today's video is not for you. Specifically, some of these comments have been saying that diabulimia isn't hard, like anorexia, you have to starve yourself. Bulimia, you have to throw up. Just because diabulimia, you don't have to give yourself insulin, you omit your insulin. People, for whatever reason, think that it's easy. And hey, I mean, I get it. I really get it. To the outside world, eating anything that you want, not having to take multiple needles a day or have a pump attached to you, and not caring about your diabetes, basically pretending that you don't have diabetes, and then getting skinny, that does sound pretty great. To somebody who's not educated on all of the horrible negative side effects that goes along with not taking care of your diabetes or having diabulimia. What exactly is diabulimia? So let's break it down. First and foremost, it is a eating disorder. Specifically, it affects people who have type 1 diabetes. And within that group of diabetics, it normally just affects girls that are around 13 to 15 who are going through puberty and a lot of hormone changes, to women that are even in their 40s or 50s. I'm not saying that men and people who are outside of those age ranges can't ever get diabulimia, but majority just affects women that are 13 to, I would say, about 40. As I'm drinking my iced coffee that is actually now a Diet Coke, I do want to talk just a little bit about what it actually means to be diabulimic. When you're diabulimic, it's not just something that just comes on right away. It's not like, oh, you wake up one morning and you have diabulimia. It's not like that. Anybody who has an eating disorder, any type, it's because of some emotional, traumatic turmoil that's going on in your life that you feel like you can't control. So after being diagnosed with diabetes back in 2014, I would say the first year to year and a half, I really was diligent with my diabetes. I took care of myself. I took the right amount of insulin every day. I checked my blood sugar multiple times a day. I was a good diabetic. On the inside, I was so angry that I had diabetes. I was so frustrated and everything was going on in my life. I hadn't really processed that I was going to have diabetes for the rest of my life. I lived my entire life up to that point having self-esteem issues, having body issues, all of that kind of stuff, that when I first realized that I could lose weight by not giving myself insulin and by just eating anything that I wanted so that I could emotionally fill the void of everything that had gone wrong in my life or that I had felt guilty about, bam, that was just a recipe for an eating disorder waiting to happen. Women with diabetes are 3 times more likely to develop some sort of eating disorder over their non-diabetic counterparts. That's absolutely insane to me that women who have diabetes are 3 times more likely to develop some sort of eating disorder. And it makes sense because of all of the restrictions and food and all of the pressure that we have on ourselves so that we can have perfect A1Cs and perfect diabetes. And to the outside world, it's like, oh, we'll just take your insulin. But there's so much else that goes into having diabetes and to properly taking care of yourself. Like, people don't understand that we have to count carbs, count fiber, count the sugars, count this, make sure that we are weighing things properly. And it's so much freaking work. So it's easy to just be like, oh, well, I'll just give myself insulin later. I'll figure it out later. Oh, I'm out with my friends tonight. Oh, I'll deal with it later. You know, it's easy for it to snowball and for us to just kind of push it to the wayside because we don't want to seem different. And I know that it just might seem easier to deal with your diabetes later instead of dealing with it right at that point, or like, you know, actually counting the carbs, going to the McDonald's website or to the restaurant's website and figuring out what the carbs are, or having to ask for special things in your food. Like, I get it. It's embarrassing. Nobody wants to deal with it, but it's so important that you take care of yourself, because it's so easy for something like that to become a habit, and for that habit to become something that turns into an eating disorder. I know that it seems like a really easy, glamorous way to be like, oh, well, I can just lose 50 pounds, and then after I've lost that weight, I can stop and I'll just start eating carefully and taking care of my diabetes and all of that stuff. As somebody who did that song and dance for years, not taking your insulin is a habit. It's something that you need to work on sooner rather than later, because if you just leave it for years and years and years, one, you're not even gonna remember how to carb count. You're not even gonna remember what your insulin to carb ratio is. You're not even gonna remember any of that stuff. It's like starting from ground zero. It's like starting like you're a whole new diabetic again. Just saying like, oh, well, I can deal with it later, or I can deal with it when I have lost the weight. No, you're just gonna keep moving your goal weight. You're just gonna keep going down and down, and that's just a slippery slope that you're on. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm not as bad as other eating disorders. I'm not starving myself. I'm still eating food. I'm not throwing up after every meal. No, you're just omitting insulin. This is really, really scary to me, because people don't really talk about all of the negative and detrimental side effects that go along with having diabulimia. One, we can have retinopathy, neuropathy, kidney disease, heart attacks, amputations. You can have so many things go wrong physically with your body. And that's not even just including the mental and emotional things that go along with having diabulimia. I am now dealing with side effects from 2018. My body is still trying to figure out all of the emotional and physical issues and things that I put it through because I wasn't taking care of my diabetes, and I was dealing with a severe eating disorder. I wrote everything down that I wanted to talk about. I've got it in my book. So excuse me if I am looking down. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the right statistics. Statistically, the mortality rate of type 1 diabetes is 2.5%. Okay, that's not like a huge number, but it's still not zero. Now that we know the regular type 1 diabetes mortality rate, I want to take a look at anorexia, which I think is one of the largest eating disorders that people talk about, that people are very concerned about because how awful it actually really is. The anorexia mortality rate is 6.5%. So it's higher than just like the type 1 diabetes mortality rate, which is still awful. That's terrible that 6.5% of people who have anorexia have such severe anorexia that they pass away. Now, if we look at diabulimia has a mortality rate of 34.8%. That's a third. Okay, I just want to make that clear. That is a third of men and women who get diabulimia who pass away. That is a big percentage. That's why it's so deadly, because so many different things can go wrong. Having that number, that mortality rate that we do, that scares me. It scares me that it's not something that's taught, or at least when I was first diagnosed as a diabetic, just a diabetic, I was never told really about diabulimia. Nobody talked to me about it. It wasn't until I started educating myself when I was already in the midst, the pits, the gritty bits of having diabulimia, that I started educating myself on this. I know right now it may seem like, oh well, like I weigh so much. I look back at these pictures of me when I was sick. I'll include one of these pictures somewhere on the screen. Now, this picture, I know I have like a weird face, but you can see how actually sick I looked. And this was, I think 3 or 4 days before I totally came clean about my diabulimia to my family. When I first told my parents, it wasn't like as soon as I told somebody, oh, I was cured. No, it's recovery. You are not gonna be okay for a while. I'm still not okay, and it's been 3 years. I wouldn't say that I'm like bad or anything, but I still have days where, yeah, I will not take the proper amount of insulin. I'm being 100% transparent with you guys, okay? But then I go, hey, Sarah, you've done so much work to get to this point.
take your goddamn insulin.
So guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. I do know that it's a little bit of a harder topic to deal with, but I did ask you guys on a poll on my community tab what videos you would want to see from me, and a lot of you were saying that you wanted to hear more about diabulimia. And I think that's because, like I was saying earlier and throughout this video, not a lot is known about diabulimia. As a community, we should really make this like a big issue that we should talk about because it's so important, so deadly. I don't ever want to see my daughters or my sons, when I have kids, go through anything like this and like feel like they're alone or that they don't understand what's going on. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, you found it informative or anything like that, please make sure to share, subscribe, like the video. If you guys want to follow me on social media, all the links and everything are in the description box down below. I have included some eating disorder websites. All of the trials and statistics that I was talking about earlier are all in the description box down below. I'll see you guys in my next video where we will be celebrating my 26th birthday and we'll be having lots and lots of fun, and we're gonna be reacting to the very first couple of videos on my channel from like 10 years ago. It's hilarious. So I'll see you guys in my next video.